Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show.
Bear with me a second. I was dealing with some technical difficulties I was trying to remedy at the absolute last minute, so we just barely got everything stood up in time before the intro ran out. But that's kind of been, well, it's kind of been the story of life lately, with hopping from one foot to the other, trying desperately to beat deadlines. Which is why we're having an 8 a.m. morning show on a Friday morning when we should have a podcast going out, because I was traveling for work and got home yesterday evening, and I'm about to go on a family vacation. And this is like the one time we could slip this in. So for the audience that's listening, dadgummit, we're trying.
This is the MOF morning show.
Yes, it is.
No, and I tried to snag somebody to jump on, but with my work schedule and stuff, it just it just didn't work out. So I'm glad that this happened. So
yeah, and under more normal circumstances, like normally when I travel for work, I'm traveling by POV, I'm staying within my home state, and in cases like that, like we both have fully mobile podcast setups. Like if it had been a normal in air quotes travel trip, then I would have had my mobile rig, and you and I could have got together like late one evening, early one morning. We could have figured something out while I was out of pocket. But in this case, I could not bring any of that. And we'll talk about that on the back end of the show. But this work trip has exposed some glaring holes in my preparedness plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't, some of those might be holes for which there just is no plug. But specific to running a podcast, I couldn't do it off my work laptop, didn't have the room to bring a whole nother hard case of podcast stuff. So it was kind of like, it just had to wait. Yeah. Thankfully, we managed to get together this morning and make that happen.
I mean, yeah.
But administrative work. We apparently picked up one more new patron right before I left, and another one I'm trying to make contact with while I was gone. So, to the patrons who support the show, as always, thank y'all. Y'all make this all this anarchy possible. And if you don't like anarchy, I don't know why you're supporting the show, because that's usually what it turns into, but I digress. Merch. So, the Southern Gals handles our merch. Matter of fact, I did not throw on a shirt this morning like I swore I would. This is one of our current designs. Brace yourself. And Gillian has recently gone through a whole revamp of raising values that, like, I would like to see the two of us embrace towards Matter of Facts, because, like, I have some ideas in my head I need to get out of my head. I need to get her to turn into graphics, and I would like to see us make the merch a bit more ours, a little cheekier, more fun. But merchandise, if you do choose to wear the gear and buy the merch and support the podcast in that way, understand that not only does it support this podcast, but it also directly supports a small home business, which is why we took that business away from Teespring and gave it to the Southern Gals.
Yeah, and no, go ahead. Go on.
Well, I mean, everybody's heard this spiel before. If I have to throw money in somebody's pocket, I'd much rather be a small shop around here in Mandeville than Jeff Bezos via Amazon. I'd rather it go to a small business. That's just call it a baseline principle with me.
Yeah. The other thing too is I know Chris. We were talking about it. About getting him on, and he's trying to snag his wife as well. But we're gonna get him on, and we're gonna discuss a couple of things, and just basically just kind of talk about the merch and what they offer and stuff like that, because they offer a ton. It's very interesting what she can do, so it's great. So, the other thing I want to really throw out there is Operation Skywalker. If you have not seen our show regarding this this whole thing, this whole ordeal, let me know. Very kind gentleman. He defended himself against 3 individuals, ended up killing one in self-defense, and he was put in jail for 100 and I think was 106 days. I can't remember oh no, longer than that. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's but anyway, he was placed in jail unconstitutionally. He was tortured. I mean, a number of things that this guy went through that should not be happening with something like this. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, it's called Operation Skywalker. It's a give, send, go. So please, if you check out the link in the description, if you go over to the Matter of Facts Instagram page, you can find information there as well. But you can also just go over there, and if you please donate, any amount helps. It could be $1, $2, $5, $100. I don't care what you do. Just please get over there and donate. This guy, he had his life ripped out from under him, and he had to sell a lot just to get to cover lawyer fees and stuff like that. So this is all going to him just to get him and his wife them just like basically back under their feet, or their feet back under them. Sorry.
And
so
if anybody needs a refresher on like what we're talking about, June 21st was that episode release called "When Good Shoots Go Bad."
mhm.
It's an hour and 45 minutes long, and it's not the first time I've heard of a nightmare happen for a concealed carrier, but it might be a high water mark. Like it's pretty shocking to hear what, even though by any reasonable metric we could say it was a good shoot, and in that situation most reasonable people would have done the same thing, but it's still just shocking to hear how the justice system like predisposed the case and did everything possible to just beat him into submission so he would eventually just take a plea and roll over.
Well, not only was it the judge, but the prosecutor, the corrupt prosecutor,
the
police, the corrupt sheriff's deputy that tried to handle it on his own. Everything. I mean, from the only good thing that came out of this was the guy, he lived. He evaded. He fended off the attackers. Unfortunately, someone did lose their life, but it was in complete like self-defense, where you can't look at this and say, nope, that's not a good shoot.
Morning, Kyle.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's crazy. So yeah, go take a gander at it. And yeah, like I said, it's on MOF, the Instagram page. I know if anybody here follows MDFI Trek, the guys over at MDFI have been really pushing it too. But yeah, if you guys could please just go over and donate. We need to try to help this guy. The gun community, if the gun community could come behind something, it'd be nice if they could rally behind something like this. And that's what I'm hoping. So
the poor guy should write a book about this. It would sell. I mean, it's like I said, like me having met the person who this happened to, it sounds like fiction. Like there's no way it could be this bad, but we know better.
Right.
So, I guess let's talk about the I was about to say the orange elephant in the room, but I'm not going to take that pot shot at President Trump. I just couldn't help myself for a moment. But let's talk about the assassination attempt on President Trump, which I'm not going to lie, I was not looking forward to talking about because, mercifully, I was on a work trip when social media. I was home when it happened. I was kind of surprised when this trip wasn't canceled, to be perfectly honest, given what was going on. But I was mercifully tied up when social media just went ballistic with the conspiracy theories and was it staged? Did the Trump campaign stage this to boost his numbers?
There was one that they were like,
wild.
There was one I think I saw that some leftist was pushing. Basically, they called for the assassination. Basically, the entire 4 years he was in, and then all the way moving forward, they've been really wanting, oh, we need his head on a spike, on a pike, basically, through all the hearings. And then it was, oh, I can see him. He put blood on it. He put fake blood on his ear. I can see, he did that. He went down. It was.
He hit his head on the desk. That has to be my
Yeah.
favorite one.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, it's nuts. The crap that is coming out of this. I mean, will there always be conspiracy theories of everything? Yes, there will be. But I don't know. I'm a type of person who I like to see evidence, and I like to see as things come out. I like to see. That's when I make my conspiracy theories. Is when a bunch of evidence drops, and then it just does, it doesn't make sense. Kind of like this whole situation. I mean, we won't get into that right now because I think there's more dropping.
We're gonna get into a little bit of it because there's already evidence or details here that just don't line up for me. But go ahead.
No, but all I know is if you want to defeat the federal government, just put a slightly sloped whatever, like a ramp. If your roof is like a little bit slanted, you're fine. Something that will just defeat them from going over it or on it. So you're safe. That's how we defeat the federal government. I know Biden said we would need like not AR-15s, but like F-15s and all kinds of stuff if we had to do it. But nope, it's just a sloped roof that stops them every single time. So
yeah, well, apparently also, like, despite the fact that that was it like 160 million Americans with AR-15s, isn't enough to resist tyranny, but one string bean 20-year-old soy boy with an AR-15 and a command detonated IED in his vehicle, that is enough to potentially take out a presidential candidate. So here's the thing. I don't want to indulge in like rampant conspiracy theory nonsense because like it's exhausting. It's a hole without end. But let me just. I just have one thing I got to talk about with you, man, with regards to this. First of all, like I'm thankful that President Trump survived the attack, regardless of whether or not I support the guy. Like, I feel like when we as a nation reach the point where like it's open season on political candidates, I feel like we've reached a tipping point that we're not going to come back from. You know what I'm saying? Once that starts to become the norm, we've reached a tipping point we're not coming back from. And that's, I've said before, on several occasions, like you and I have even had this conversation when we get really frustrated with the world around us and we say, okay, it's time for a reset. Like asteroid, financial collapse, it's time for something to sweep the idiots off the table. But even as I say that, I tell people very often, I'm like, I don't want that world, because I understand that I have within me the ability to be as vicious as necessary to survive in that world, but my wife and daughter don't. I don't want my wife and daughter to live in that world. And I don't want my wife and daughter to live in the world where politicians get assassinated in broad daylight as a regular event. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to go there. I think if you want to defeat a presidential candidate, you got to defeat him at the ballot box. And it has to be done in such a transparent way that there is no question he was defeated at the ballot box. If my candidate gets defeated at the ballot box, then our ideas were not the best ideas, and that's the way it was. But if you cheat at the ballot box, if you assassinate my candidate, if you do those things, we're going to go to a place nobody really wants to go. So that's my whole spiel on that. But here, Andrew, here's the thing I can't quite wrap my head around. Maybe you can help me with this. So the Secret Service is supposed to be some of the most, chisel-jawed, not an inch of fat on them, highly trained, pipe-hitting, paramilitary force in our country, right? I mean, they protect the president, they protect dignitaries, they protect some of our most high-risk people in this country, right? Supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're going to convince me that this very highly trained, highly funded, well-equipped group let a 20-year-old soy boy string bean 150 yards inside their perimeter with a rifle to take a shot at the president when he'd been reported to them, when they saw him on a roof for multiple minutes before he took the shot.
Well, I think they know
Wait,
they've known about him for like 3 hours.
let me get it all out. All that, and then people in the crowd were reporting it. These highly trained badasses let this little knucklehead do all this because they're that incompetent at their jobs? Sell me that idea. Because the other option here is that if the Secret Service is not that incompetent, then you're convincing me that this 20-year-old kid, who, by the way, did not demonstrate great marksmanship principles, but somehow managed to have a command-detonated IED in his vehicle, which is a whole new bucket of weird, because, like, I went through classes on how to identify IEDs. They're not super difficult to build. I mean, people in caves in third world countries build them, so they're not that hard to build. But it's a skill the average 20-year-old doesn't possess. And you have to go looking for that information. And by the way, if you do without a VPN, the FBI shows up on your door. You know, like, it's a thing. There's just so much weird about this kid and about this incident. Like, he's either the second coming of James Bond, and he managed to outwit the entire Secret Service detail, or they're so freaking incompetent at their jobs that these boobs let this 20-year-old knucklehead damn near assassinate a presidential candidate. And it's got to be one or the other. Which one? Neither one makes sense.
Or it could be both.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's the thing, though, is
Give me that scenario, then.
You know, the thing is, though, is the director of the Secret Service has been out because people are calling for a resignation. And she's out basically trying to play.
Rightfully so.
Right, but she's out playing damage control and stuff, and she said basically, I think it was, I mean, the whole sloped roof thing, when the counter team that was on the other side alongside Trump was, I mean, if you look at the pitch of their roof, it was way more than what that one was. There was a picture of a cow on top of a sloped roof. Like, you guys couldn't put a SWAT team on this, but you could. A cow got up there. The idea that there was a ladder sitting right there, that he climbed up a ladder. So that's the thing is, I don't know. And from what the accounts that I've been reading to is, they knew about him like roughly for like, I think it was like 3 hours prior to this. Like, they knew about this kid. You know, he tons of, and I mean, I really hate the idea. I hate today's society where we pull phones out at the craziest moments of, well, hey, we need to like flee or get in and help, but people are like, no, I need to record this. That, on the other hand, goes secondhand to where it's actually, thankfully, that because there's a ton of video evidence out there, and there's a ton more that we have not seen yet. So the idea that they've got this kid walking around just aimlessly, when people are pointing out about it, there's people that were pointing out saying, hey, there's somebody on the roof, there's with a gun, all kinds of stuff, pointing it out to the people or to the cops that were sitting there, the local LEO and stuff. The fence that was actually in the way that they couldn't bypass, like, they were having a hard time because there was a big fence that was up, and apparently, from one thing that I was reading, was that they couldn't get around the fence that easy, so that was just a fail on their end. The idea that I believe I also saw this has been confirmed. Again, if it's not, I apologize and please correct me, but I did read another article from Mainstream that there was like a SWAT team that was actually in that building, but because of the roof and because of like the how hot it was and stuff like that, they actually were inside of that building, like on the second floor or whatever. So I mean, and then the thing is, though, is with this kid, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about him. I am glad that he is dead, but you know, if you have anybody that has any common knowledge of the dark web, you can find this. You can find plans and all kinds of stuff on there. If anybody's familiar with the Tor browser, the VPNs and stuff like that, you can definitely get into some information. So, is it feasible that this kid looked up on how to do all kinds of stuff? And then, yeah, it is feasible. It's also feasible that this was a planned assassination attempt, and this is where my conspiracy theory kind of kicks in. With all of the loopholes, everything going on, who know? I mean, the CIA has been behind a lot of stuff. I I believe that
Kill two Kennedys. We can start there.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like I'm a firm believer that the CIA is behind JFK. Well, two Kennedys. I'm pretty, that's a thing. And so I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. I'm curious to see where more information comes out. It's gonna be interesting to follow as more information comes out. So it's just one of those things where you look at what happened. You're like, all right, cool. Like what happened was crazy because people did lose their lives that got shot in the whole during the whole ordeal. And so yeah, I don't know. I really hope that Trump can. I've said before, Trump can kind of take this and go a couple different ways with it. And one way is he really pushes basically that the left has. They tried to silence him in the courts, which didn't work, and so they turned and they decided to try to assassinate him. And that didn't work either. So where do we go from here? But the other side that I'm hoping he doesn't go down is gun control, especially since the GOP basically the Republican National Committee they basically removed the idea of the talking points of supporting Second Amendment rights. They kind of silently removed it from their platform. So I'm kind of hoping that they don't go down this route because all the momentum that Trump has gained, popularity, basically the number boost that he got from this attempt on his life, if he starts pushing gun control and all kinds of stuff, he's going to lose it.
But here's the beauty. And I was actually like making this comment on another social media account just yesterday, Conservatish, Peter Feliciano's account. But I made the comment, he was talking about like supporting candidates depending on what they're doing. Basically, like we can't be all in on Team Trump or Team Biden. We can't be all in on any one candidate. We have to, support what they support when they're supporting us, and when they don't, we need to call them out on it. And I said that's where having principles comes into play, because when you have principles, you support a candidate when their principles align with yours, and then you shitpost them mercilessly and make memes about them when they screw the pooch, And I think that is an important standard to live by politically, is that you cannot look at Donald J. Trump or Joseph R. Biden's platform and say, this is what I'm going to model myself after. And then in 4 years, I'm going to change the whole thing. That's not how this works. What you have to do is you have to decide every single issue. And in my case, like where gun rights are concerned, I'm easy to figure out. I think we should be able to buy machine guns out of vending machines. Until we can do that, we're not having a conversation about winning back gun rights, in my humble opinion. But like that's me, and I'm an extremist in air quotes, and I'm okay with that because I do have a very extreme opinion on gun rights and gun control. But that is my principle. Whoever pushes the needle in the direction I want to go is okay with me, and if they push in the wrong direction, I'm gonna scream and yell about it because that's my principle in play. But I have other principles that don't always line up perfectly with Republicans. So I have to have principles, and I have to conduct myself according to those principles, and I have to allow my opinion of politicians to be shaped by those principles. So if the Donald starts going the wrong direction on gun control, you can fully expect to have to pull out that blood pressure warning meme, because I will go through the ceiling. Just like I did during the bump stock ban. Just like we did. I mean, like we've done this before with Donald Trump. When he started getting silly about guns, about firearm stuff, we both went nuts.
Yeah. So so I'm curious to see where this goes. I mean, I'm pretty sure on the show, and I know we've talked about it behind the scenes, but I know we basically the idea that this was going to happen. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. I thought it was going to be. I was predicting that it was going to happen closer to the election, but here we are. And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely a crazy time, but it's going to be interesting. So, but in other news, one president rises while one is falling down a flight of stairs all the time.
I was about to say, was that a pun? But yeah, it was a pun.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, Biden. So here's the weird thing about watching the Biden regime, the Biden presidency, the Biden administration. Like, I call it a regime because that's just the way they behave. But like, from my perspective, they were never doing that great to begin with.
Mm-mm.
They've
Not from day one.
they've bobbled almost every facet, if not every facet, of running a country you could possibly bobble. They seem to spend the first 2 years of their presidency just being anti-Trump. Like, whatever Trump did, we're going to do the opposite, regardless of whether it was a good idea or not. And, predictably, people were very upset about that because as polarizing of a person as Donald Trump was during his presidency, he did do what he claimed he was going to do. He did reduce taxes on the middle class. He did remove a ton of red tape from businesses. He did financially incentivize big businesses to bring their plants and everything and the jobs back to the U.S. He did a lot of great things, regardless of what you think about his locker room talk or his mannerisms or his boisterousness or whatever else. There were things he did that were great things. And the Biden administration unwound all that as fast as humanly possible just to be anti-Trump. And now here we are on the back end of their presidency. And Biden and Harris's approval numbers are in the toilet. Biden is getting calls from his own party to step down because they do not believe he has a chance in hell of winning against Donald Trump. And they didn't think he had that chance before the assassination attempt that Trump survived. They thought he didn't have that chance after a presidential debate that clearly made Trump look. Because here's what came out of the debate, which I only watched like a very brief moment of it because I am so over politics at this point. And I already know how this is going to work out. But what I saw, I wasn't even interested in what they were saying. I was interested in how they were presenting themselves. And Donald Trump, unlike 2016, was calm and collected, a little bit sarcasm, a little sassy, but he came across as a man who was acting his age and who was like the gentleman politician. Very, very unlike the rhetoric I heard and we heard in 2016, or in the run-up to 2016. And Biden came across like a stuttering old man that needed to go to a nursing home. And from the moment that debate was over, his party wanted him out because they just don't see the path forward. And now it looks even more lopsided. So I've been hearing all across social media, all the rumors that, Biden's going to step down this weekend. But here's the problem, bud. Who the hell did the Democrats put in? I mean, Kamala Harris is not well liked by her own party.
No, but she does, from my understanding, because she's VP or she's VP. From my understanding, she's the only one that can access the money that is like for the campaign fund and all that stuff.
Assuming they don't change the rules, which they
have
done before.
Rules, yeah. But no, I've heard names floating such as Gavin Newsom. I've heard Stretch and Gretchen Whitmer. I've heard that she's been being talked to or groomed or whatever you want to call it.
I've heard Hillary's name thrown around again.
Yep, I've heard Hillary, which funny meme, really quick, I want to throw out there. Saw a meme that said Donald Trump has officially he ended Hillary's kill streak.
I did see that. That was quite fun. Quite fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, yeah, basically Hillary, Big Mike Obama. I could they're talking about floating that because Obama was so popular. Maybe they could get around 2 with Big Mike in there. But yeah, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And so after this weekend, it's going to be interesting because it's one of those things where, but that's the thing is it's a puppet. I mean, Biden's a puppet.
Yeah.
You can clearly see, like, I mean, we knew the last handful of presidents. I mean, not even just last handful,
They've
but
all been
they've been all
puppets.
puppets. I mean, so the fact that it's going to be, it's basically they're going to say, well, who do we want to change that out for? And Biden is no longer he's no longer a feasible candidate as a puppet, just because he is messed up so bad. I mean, he can't even read off a teleprompter. That's how bad of a puppet he is.
No,
Like,
no. I
person that,
disagree. He reads off a teleprompter so well, he even reads the punctuation
yeah, that is true.
and the subtitles.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah.
no,
So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, but
my wife did ask me an interesting question last night, which I disagree with her immediately, but it bears pointing out at this point. But she asked me, she's like, "Do you think the DNC would reach out to a Robert F. Kennedy?" And I was like, "Only in their worst, wildest, most LSD infused dreams would they reach would because the problem is, and like at least this is the way I see it. Like you're free to disagree if you do, but I don't think the Republican Party really wanted Donald Trump in 2016, and I don't think they want him any more now than they did then because Trump, like the only way they were able to stop the swamp draining in 2016 was because they surrounded him with people who steered him in the wrong direction, in my opinion. I hold him partially accountable for that because he allowed himself to be steered in the wrong direction. But I digress. Trump is not a Republican Party person. He did not come into politics on a wave of money from the RNC. He's a bull in a china shop. He's a populist. He has the support of a lot of people behind him, but not really a lot of party support. And we saw that in his first presidency, even with the number of Republicans who refused to support him. J.D. Vance being one of them, by the way.
mm-hmm.
And I believe that if the DNC courted Robert F. Kennedy, it'd be the exact same problem for the Democrats because Robert F. Kennedy is a populist. Robert F. Kennedy is not coming into the DNC on a wave of money being provided by the DNC. He has his own money. He's independently wealthy. He's a Kennedy. He could friggin' stand. He could set up a microphone in the middle of any town in this country and get half the town to show up just to listen to him talk because of his legacy and who he is. And the DNC would be very smart to court him to be their candidate to replace Biden. But I don't think they have the stones to do it because if they do, then they've got a progressive Trump in the White House. They have another person who they can't control who, if he's smart, he's not going to trust the Secret Service for all of his security because, the CIA kind of his uncle and his father.
But they won't even issue him Secret Service detail anyway.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, let's say hypothetically the DNC reached out to Robert F. Kennedy and ran him. I feel like that'd be a hell of a race between Robert F. Kennedy and Trump on the Democrat and the Republican tickets. But then again, I said the same thing about Bernie Sanders as the Democrat frontrunner and Trump back in 2016. And look what the party did then. They took Bernie, they maneuvered Bernie out into the weeds to get Hillary in place because Hillary was the party person and Bernie was the populist. Do you really think the DNC now is going to reverse course and they're going to bring in a populist they can barely control? Who's going to act according to his principles, not according to the special interest? I don't think they want that fight.
No,
I think they would rather put up a party person, take the L for 2024 and try again in 2028 rather than give somebody like Robert F. Kennedy the status as the Democrats' front runner. Even though I believe that if Robert F. Kennedy went toe-to-toe with Donald J. Trump, we might end up with a Kennedy in the White House. I think he could probably beat Trump, but I don't think they'll do it.
Well, I think what would be really interesting is, Kennedy's running as an independent.
Yes.
So, I don't. Has he announced his VP?
Yes, he did.
I don't remember who it was because
Um,
obviously mainstream media, like you can't really. I mean, anyway, anyway,
here,
if he did or not, it's whatever. But my thing though too with that is depending on what the DNC does and who they pick. I mean, honestly, they could pick Gavin Newsom, they could pick Whitmer, they could pick whoever really. But are they the idea that they're just basically gonna pick somebody who is established Democrat and all that? What's going to be interesting is if Trump went, if he did debates because the DNC is so screwed up right now, if he did debates with Kennedy and started getting Kennedy, if they did it right and honestly being an independent and everything, like they should be able to like every party should have a position on the stage, on the debate stage. That shouldn't just be two parties that are there, slash one party. But I would definitely think it could be interesting that if Kennedy sticks it out and everything, and they get to in November, I mean, depending on what the DNC does, we could be looking at an independent versus a Republican. Like that's what I'm saying is depending on who it is and depending on what the people say. I mean, I know there's going to be those people that are going to be like hardcore Democrat. I don't care. They could pull some dude out of a butt and
vote blue no matter who.
yeah, vote blue no matter who, and that's it. But I really hope, and it would be really interesting to see, is if this time around the independent side got more votes or close to more votes than Democrat. And the idea that if Kennedy plays his cards right and he really pushes it out there, the idea that we could see because we have those hardcore never Trumpers that no matter what happens, this dude almost got killed, and they still cannot. They still find they can't rally behind him. They can't find a single thing that they like about this individual, about him. When yeah, he's not. Is he perfect? No, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't. And am I happy with them? Not exactly. But I do see with my paycheck was a heck of a lot better and my grocery bill was a lot lower. My mortgage was well, actually no, I take that back. I didn't have a mortgage back then.
Gas
But
bill.
like rent and stuff like that, gas bill, it took a lot less to fill my truck up under Trump than it did in the last 4 years under Biden. Like everything so it'd be really nice to go back to that and I would love to take some mean tweets and have some cheaper gas and everything like that to be able to put more money in my pocket. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to definitely to see as it gets closer to November. Because honestly, yeah, if Kennedy plays his cards right, I mean, this could be a independent versus Republican more than a Democrat versus Republican.
You
And then
know, then
the independent's kind of like, nah, I'm just going to sit in the back and I might steal like 5,000 votes. No, I think this is a good opportunity and then this is also for the people that are crying independent, vote independent every single election. Who just to me, it's you're throwing away your vote in a sense. This could be a good opportunity for those people to really start pushing. Hey, vote independent and see what happens. And this might be a good year to vote independent, honestly, depending on
mm-hmm.
what's going on. Because and so yeah.
Not that I think he would have done it, but I did have a fever dream one time and thought to myself, like, what would have happened if Trump would have picked Robert F. Kennedy to be his VP?
I know, right?
I don't, and here's the thing of it, I don't think Robert F. Kennedy would have accepted. I could be wrong. That would have been an interesting ticket. But I had that thought of, like, I could see, like, so, and this is why I've listened to Robert F. Kennedy, because I agree with what he's saying. I don't know if I would agree with how he plans to do it, because some of his policy ideas just don't quite mesh with my ideas. But like his perspective, to me, seems to be we need to find we need to this cannot we cannot continue to move forward as a country if it's red team versus blue team and who wins. Mm-hmm. It has to be what can we do so that red and blue both win, so that progressives and conservatives both are heard and both have a solution they can live with. Like, that's how we win. And unfortunately, like me being more the libertarian-minded folk that I am, I tend to think that the way we all win is for the government to leave everybody the hell alone so everybody can live their own lives. somewhat separately. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I need to pass this law so that everybody's happy. It's like, no, you don't pass law at all and let everybody do what they do their own thing. Like, I believe and I'm not going to soapbox because I don't have the energy for it this morning. I haven't been caffeinated enough. But, like, I believe that a lot of the problems we face in this nation is an overabundance of legalese.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much control and power and oversight and effing with people's lives that's led us to this point. Like somebody pointed out recently, like the person who sits in the White House should have so little control over your life that it doesn't matter to you day to day. And I agree with that on principle, but that's not the world we live in, but we should try to get back to it. All right, so you think we can take 20 minutes and talk about, like, the hell for preppers? So Andrew knows, and the patrons know, and the general population probably doesn't, because I don't usually advertise when I'm going to be away from home for obvious reasons, OPSEC and all that. But I recently had to fly out of town for work. And first and foremost, I hate flying with a passion. I get extraordinarily airsick. But from the standpoint of a person who, like, you know, carries a firearm every day and has medical equipment in his truck and yada yada yada, the idea that I had to get on a plane, go play around with the TSA for, hey, on the way there and back, live out of a hotel room, didn't even have a rental car, much less my own POV. We were cabbing and Ubering everywhere. I was in a situation for the first time in years where I literally could not do a lot of the things I would normally do to be prepared for an emergency situation. And it was an immediately uncomfortable situation. So I thought it would bear maybe a short discussion today. And if it winds up looking like it's going to be a bigger discussion, we'll cap it up some other time. But let's start with the fact that I flew into Washington, D.C., which means my concealed carry permit was... So I could not bring a firearm with me at all.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
Oh, I am. I'm corralling my thoughts together. So couldn't bring a firearm at all. Concealed carry permit was, a joke in that city. I did pack a tourniquet in my laptop bag, which was almost always with me, just because I do that when I'm at the office, and I've never had anybody pitch a fit about me carrying a tourniquet with me except for some weird looks. Carried my flashlight with me, because I always do. Couldn't even take a pocket knife, because the buildings we were going into involved going through a metal detector, so I couldn't even take a knife. It was just, Andrew, it was a very intensely uncomfortable situation. Like, my workplace is already a place where I can't bring a firearm. I can't have a firearm, like, in my vehicle in the parking lot, because we have to go through security checkpoints to get in. But even at work, I've got, like, my whole blowout kit in my vehicle. I've got a tourniquet in my laptop bag. I've got, like, my little bitty pocket knife that I can bring into the facility because it has a blade length of less than 2.5 inches, so it slides in under the radar. Like, I've got some options. And when I'm working at the facility, if something popped off, I never go to work with less than half a tank of fuel. So I could drive literally, like, 3 times further than I have to get home if I had to take a really circuitous route. I've kind of, like, arranged my life so that when I have to go into the office, I have accounted for as many weird situations as possible. But in this situation, I was in Washington, D.C., didn't have a vehicle. So my only way to get home was to get back on a plane to fly home, or I guess theoretically try to rent a car and drive home. I was really thinking about, especially right on the tail end of the Trump assassination attempt, I was really in the mode of, if something weird happened, and I had to get out of this city as fast as possible, what do I do? How do I pull that off? Because, like, I don't have any sustainment gear with me to be able to sit it out here for any length of time. So my plan A was, if I could find a rental car, I was just going to, like, swipe a debit card, rent a car, and just drive home if I had to. It was about 15 hours, but I would have raw dogged it home if I had to. I did make sure I carried cash, which anybody that's traveling any distance, even if you're just walking out, to the end of your driveway, I encourage you to carry cash. And I'm going to tell you, I got some funny looks from people when they realized I was carrying, pretty decent amount of cash. But I was like, cash always works. When the when your debit card declines, when the telecom hum all goes down, cash still works. That's why I carry cash. Cash is the ultimate emergency get out of jail free card. But I don't know, man. Like, I did, before I made this trip, I did make some phone calls through the patrons and through some friends and through the PBN crew. And I was basically trying to figure out, like, okay, who has people in the DC area?
Well,
Like, if I need to make a phone call and I need somebody to come pick me up and get me the hell out of this city right here and now, who's my first and second point of contact? And that was really just kind of like my what I was envisioning was like, if somebody has to get me out of DC, where's my next stop on the way home? And I was gonna like underground railroad it, like have friends that would just meet halfway and just get me as far out of the city as possible if it came to it.
I know we've talked about it before, but it just and I mean, I'm re-listening to the book series now, but Locker 9 from Franklin Horton, like that's exactly the premise of that book series. Is his daughter's off at college. He has a whole booklet of friends of his that she can trust, and it's her ability to get home and everything like that. I did that when my mom went on vacation to Florida with my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece, and my nieces. I put this thing together that it basically took them from Florida, basically close enough to where I could go get them, and so that's the same thing. I mean, when I go down to there's a slight chance I might go to Florida in November for work, and if that happens, I'm going to be bringing this. I'm going to be updating this pamphlet or this PDF that I have, and it's going to come with me because the idea that okay, if something happens, all right, I know this guy's in Georgia. All right, I know a couple of these guys are in Georgia. I know this guy lives close enough to where hey, if I don't have a car, hey, if I can get a car, if I can walk, can you meet me here? And that's where you look at and I know your end goal is to get back home, but if you have to travel north for so long to get out of the city and then kind of go west and then south and kind of backtrack around, I mean, so be it. Especially if the roads are all blocked off and stuff like that, you're going to have to detour around crap. So that's the thing is definitely prep your trip. So it's like, okay, if I need to get home and I got to drive or whatever, okay, this way, this exit or this road takes me out of here, this direction, this direction, this direction. And if I need to go get picked up, okay, where's the best places to get picked up? Okay, this place is, I know I can walk 2.5, 3 miles, 4 miles in this amount of time. All right, this is going to be my pickup point A. Okay, this is I can't do that. This is going to be pickup point B, and then you rally and say, okay, if this person, closest couple people that you have a team with, or the plan with, okay, hey guys, I'm sharing this pamphlet with you. If something goes awry and I need to get out, if I have to walk, definitely be on comms to let people know. But hey, if this happens, this is where I'm going to be at, and I'm going to be at A. If something's going on, then I'll be at B. If something's happening again, I'll be at C. But have at least 3 points, I would say, of retrieval. And then also, I mean, it's one of those things where obviously you probably wouldn't be able to carry it, or I don't know if maybe you could carry it. But the whole ham radio and stuff, or your GMRS, if you have a handheld or something, or if you have your work laptop, the programming that you have for the GMRS radios, you have the program, if it's possible, have the program on your be able to run it on your laptop or whatever, have a thumb drive with all the programming crap on it.
You're
or even
talking
have
about SDR, software defined radio.
Yeah, so like your GMRS and stuff. So
SDRs are receive only, not transmit.
Oh yeah, but so anyway, but what I'm saying is, if you have the software, not the software, but if you have because how do you program your GMRS? You have a piece of software that you have to do that you can, yeah. So you have that software, you have it on a USB drive, installed on the USB drive, along with the program frequencies and everything programmed in on that USB drive. Something happens, you don't have your radios with you, you go to the local store, you buy one, and then you just hook it up. You can carry the cable with you, so hook it up and then figure out a way to, okay, I can run it off this laptop doing this, this, and this. I can reprogram it, or if you know how to program it by hand, these are my list of frequencies. I can program the frequencies in or whatever, and then you just try to make that plan to where, hey, I'll have comms within such and such a time. Get on the road. This is where we're meeting, and switch to this frequency. And once you get in the immediate area, every 5 minutes, hit the button and try to transmit, and I'll answer you, or I'll be answer, or something like that. That way you have a comms plan. So I mean that's honestly like, I mean I don't know jack about comms, but I should really change that. But it's one of those things where when you're traveling like that and you can't travel with all your general gear, well, maybe this is have those plans set up, and especially if you're gonna need someone to come get you, because that's the thing is, if something were to happen, well, you may have the idea to rent a car, but so does 1,000 other people.
Yeah.
And and do you really want to be in a crowded area like that with 1,000 other people trying to get a car? And the idea that, okay, I got a car, well, good luck getting out of the parking lot, because the next guy who wants to get a car that's just as desperate as you, smashing your window out and he's coming after you. That kind of thing. Worst case scenario.
This is also why, like, my initial go-to plan was I just need somebody that can get me out of the city, because because I knew that and y'all have to understand, like, this is preparedness 101, is that you think about what is a likely scenario and then how do I defeat that scenario. Like, I'm not thinking like what happens if the Russians drop a nuke in the middle of, wherever. Like, I'm thinking like what's likely to happen. And what I was really concerned about after Trump's assassination attempt was what happens if there's an attempt on another politician at the same time. And I happened to be right there in the city when it happens. I knew the whole city was going to go to lockdown. I knew that my stated reason for being there in DC was going to evaporate overnight, and I was going to have to get home any way I could. So what I was really focused on, like, was how do I get out of DC? Because I knew that if the event was in DC, then the further away from DC I get, the faster things like flights and rental cars and everything else are available to me again, so that I can get home. But my initial problem was, how do I get out of DC without walking? But I digress. Like, it was, I guess for me, it was a reminder that we all prepare for our most likely scenarios. And you brought up Locker 9 earlier. Like, here's the thing. If I spent considerable time in DC, I would probably have a little bit more of a more robust plan in place for how do I have stamina gear, how do I get out of DC, like, what do I do? I'd have a more robust plan for that. But I don't go to DC. This is the first time I've ever been to Washington, D.C. in my life. And I hope I don't have to go back anytime soon. A beautiful city for anybody that's up there. I'm not a big city person. So I was happy to visit. I would have absolutely, like, jumped off a bridge if I had to live in that place. But, I guess this was supposed to be just a really short, like, what I did to plan was I tried to figure out who was my underground railroad to get me out of the city, so that I could at least get to a place where I had friends who could, get me to the next stop, or hold on to me until my wife could come up and get me, or at least just get me out of the city, get me as far away from the city as possible so I could find a rental car and drive the rest of the way home. But it was one of those moments in time that, because of the situation I was in, every single thing about how I prepare went right out the window immediately. Because all of my plans are really developed around the idea that, like, even when we go on vacation and we don't take my truck, we take my wife's Jeep, I download most of the emergency roadside kit out of my truck into a shoulder bag, and that goes in my wife's Jeep. We have rations, we have water, we bring firearms with us. Like, we we don't go from home without those things, because if something weird happens, I need the tools of my trade to take care of my family. But in this case, and none of those things could come with me. So it was a very immediately uncomfortable situation that very quickly reminded me that sometimes the prep isn't the stuff you take with you, it's the planning.
Well, and this is where I wish you could take like treks when a gun is not an option, kind of thing. Because he kind of, I mean, he gets into like pepper spray and stuff like that, which obviously is not legal in DC either.
The
But
TSA would have also had a field game with, or
yeah,
field day with.
but it's just the idea of thinking outside the box. I mean, Ed Calderon, the one class I took with him, it was basically around you. What can you use around you to make a weapon?
Yep.
What can you use around you to make a knife or a blade? Something that can stick, something that will cause pain. So you definitely got to think outside the box. So
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the Marine Corps that says this frequently, although I've heard it attributed to certain people in the Army. But, the mind is the weapon. Everything else is just a tool. So
yeah,
I would encourage you, without making your coworkers look at you too funny, to always bear in mind that if you're creative enough, you are never disarmed anywhere. And if anybody wants to test that assertion, talk to prison guards, because they'll tell you about some of the stuff they've seen in a super controlled environment where no one's supposed to have a weapon, but
or
everybody
drugs.
does.
But anyway,
Oh yeah, drugs, cell phones, friggin' PlayStations. I mean, you can get whatever you want in prison if you can sell enough cigarettes and cheeseburgers
like
or favors.
anyway,
Anyway, well, we didn't go completely off the rails talking about Team Red and Team Blue, so that's a plus. I'm gonna be honest, man. I am like, it's freaking July, and I'm already exhausted with politics.
I was
Maybe that's just a
exhausted
sign.
I was exhausted from day one. As soon as I saw the first ad on TV, I was like, God dang it.
Maybe we're getting older. Is that a possibility? Because like, I seem to maybe we'll have to go back and listen to some of the old episodes. But like, I feel like we got much more wound up about politics way back in the day, and now we're just like, God, would you all just shut the hell up? You're all insufferable. Now we just want to vote for Thanos.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. You need more coffee. I need more coffee. And then I have to get this day going.
All right, well, have fun.
Oh, I plan to. I'm going to the beach with my wife. Let that one hang. Thanks.
Bye.
Matter of Fact's podcast will be going out the door. Just remember, you are always prepped as long as your brain is still working. You just got to plan ahead a little bit and think outside the box. But please, for the love of God, don't get too wrapped up in the politics. It's all theater anyway. It's basically like pro wrestling for boomers. God, I'm going to turn that into a tagline. Matter of Fact's podcast going out the door. Bye, everybody.
Bye.